Thanks for tuning in to Adventures of a Tar Heel. Today we're talking about our family's New Year's Eve cruise on the Disney Fantasy. We had a 7-day Eastern Caribbean cruise and took off from Port Canaveral. We were able to get an early boarding time, which is our favorite thing to do, and so we got on board and had a nice lunch at Cabanas. It was really empty when we first got there. The boys were anxious to check out the bigger edge that's on the Fantasy, so we headed up there and also checked out Vibe, which we're not old enough yet for. This was our first cruise where it was decorated for Christmas. It was also a chance to check out the Oceaneers Lab, which my youngest was young enough for, but didn't spend a ton of time in because he preferred the edge. This was our first trip on the Fantasy, and we loved the mini golf and a lot of the extra things they had. On this first night of our cruise was New Year's Eve, so we actually woke up and it was formal night that night because of the big party that evening. The New Year's Eve party was by far the most fun party we've been to when we've been on board. Just a lot of camaraderie, a lot of people having a blast, and they had past drinks and past hors d'oeuvres. We just had a really fun time. The next day was a day at sea, and we finished off the day eating at Animator's Palette, which is one of our favorites. And the following day, we went to St. Martin. We were on the cruise very soon after the major hurricanes that hit the area. So ports were just opening up. We were originally supposed to go to Tortola, but got diverted to St. Martin because Tortola wasn't yet ready for cruise traffic. Even though it was open again, St. Martin did have a lot of hurricane damage still very visible. But we had a great time, and the people that took us around on the tour that my son and I went on were really helpful and friendly and told us a lot about kind of how they recovered from the hurricane or were on the path to recovery. My oldest husband in St. Martin did a ziplining excursion, and my youngest and I did the tour of Two Flags and visited both countries on both sides of the island. We did notice that a lot more things were open on the St. Martin side. We were able to go to this fun ice cream parlor and see a lot of like the lizards and trees and things like that. And on the French side, all of the shops and all of the restaurants were still closed because of damage from the hurricane. They seemed to be on a slower path getting recovered from the hurricane. The night after St. Martin was pirate night, so we came back on board the ship for the pirate festivities and fireworks and enjoyed. This time we dressed up a little bit more than we did for our first cruise. So you see we have some fancier pirate costumes. The next day we were in St. Thomas and spent the day snorkeling. My youngest loves sea turtles, and we were very fortunate to be able to snorkel and see a sea turtle that he could swim with. A lot of the sea turtles had left the area during the hurricane and hadn't yet come back, so this was a juvenile who hadn't gotten washed out. We explored a bit around the island afterwards, and again, there's still a lot of hurricane damage there, so some of the areas on the island that normally are open were still closed. My kids love the aqueduct, so even though, as you can see, a storm was brewing when we got back, they got on board for a couple of rides before dinner. Semi-formal night was an animator's palette, so we got dressed up again and enjoyed the opportunity to just do something a little different. This night we did go to a show. There was a comedian, I believe, in the theater that evening. We tend to like the variety acts in the theater show more than the theater shows, but we did go and catch this show tonight. And we also used some of the skills we learned in the towel folding sessions to do a companion animal, so the one that our room attendant Dee Dee left us. Our last day was in Castaway Cay, Disney's private island, and this is our second cruise in January, and we're starting to notice that the weather is a little iffy in January at Castaway Cay. Warm, but it seems like, at least our luck is that we keep hitting a lot of storms in Castaway Cay. So again, we had a really cloudy, windy day. All the excursions got canceled except the 5K. And so we just kind of enjoyed some time and then had lunch on the island before going back to the ship. That evening, a very, very chilly evening on the ship, the kids went on the Aqua Dunk again, and it was deserted because it was so chilly.